Okay, let me ask you a question. How much margin are you sacrificing right now because your customers are treating your highly differentiated product, the one you spent years innovating, like it's just a cheap commodity? Why are they so laser focused on the price tag instead of the actual value you offer? That focus on price, it's a psychological state, and it leads to a death spiral for innovative companies. In the next few minutes, we are breaking down the research into 3 precise sales tactics that use the price itself to disrupt this fixation and dramatically increase your sales.
This is Inside Sales Geek, where we translate academic sales research into practical strategies that actually work.
All right, let's jump right into the core challenge here. The research calls it the commoditization problem. And for any sales leaders listening, you've got to get this. It's not just about your competitors catching up. The real issue is psychological.
Exactly. It's a state of customer apathy. When buyers get into this mindset, you start to see 3 specific behaviors: rampant skepticism, routinized buying, and just minimal expectations.
Okay, let's unpack that a little. What does routinized buying actually look like in the field for a salesperson?
It means they're not even reading your spec sheets anymore.
Seriously.
Seriously. They just skim for the price and, the bare minimum feature set. They've already convinced themselves that all the competing options are basically the same. So they stopped asking, which of these truly suits me best? And they've defaulted to that really destructive question.
What is cheapest?
What is cheapest? And that is what kills your margin, especially if you have a superior product.
Right.
It is. But that, interestingly, leads us to the research's, it's paradoxical solution. If customers are so fixated on price, you have to use the price as a strategic tool to jolt them out of that apathy. The price itself has to be what forces them to pay attention to your value.
So we've taken 4 key strategies highlighted in the research, how to stop customers from fixating on price, and we've boiled them down into 3 core high-impact tactics. These are moves you and your team can actually implement to challenge those assumptions and shift the buyer's mindset away from cost.
The first tactic is it's structural. You have to completely revise your pricing structure. That is, the basis on which you charge for your offering, to align with the single dimension that truly makes you different.
Okay, this next part is crucial. It's really about changing the entire reference point the customer is using to compare you. The history here is just so good. Think about the classic Goodyear tire example. Goodyear was constantly innovating, right? Better and better tread life. But they couldn't get a premium for it. Why?
Because customers were just comparing tires by units. A tire is a tire. A better one just costs more dollars. And all the customer felt was sticker shock. They'd just gravitate to whatever was cheapest per unit.
So they completely missed the point.
They did. Goodyear realized the unit wasn't the value. The value was longevity.
And their strategy was just brilliant. They stopped pricing tires by the physical unit and started pricing them based on the miles they were expected to last.
Yes.
And that move, it instantly highlighted their innovation, the superior tread life, and it basically taught customers a whole new way to compare.
The actionable insight here for your team is, it's simple. Start pricing based on input cost. Units sold, licensed seats, simple cost plus formulas, because all that does is give your competitors an easy common denominator to attack.
Instead, you have to price according to the value delivered, the outcome. But I have to ask this, for a sales manager trying to sell this idea internally, how do you convince your finance team to switch to an outcome-based metric like that?
It definitely requires deep alignment with your product team to quantify that value. But look at General Electric. They charge power by the hour for jet engines.
Right.
That aligns the price with uptime and efficiency, the measurable outcomes the airline actually cares about, not the raw cost of the parts. Or think about Orica, the industrial explosives company. They charge for broken rock fragmentation.
The outcome.
The valuable outcome they achieved. Not just the amount of explosives they used, which is the input cost.
I see. So you're basically creating a contract that says, look, we charge more, but we guarantee better performance. And by doing that, you pull your offering out of that ugly head-to-head price war.
You're standing behind your offer by linking the price directly to the promised value. It filters out the buyers who refuse to see the benefit.
Okay, so now here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a little scary for the finance department. The second tactic is to willfully overprice your product. And we're not talking about a small hike. We're talking about setting prices moderately higher than what customers normally intend to pay. The idea is that this doesn't repel them. It actually motivates them to take a closer look.
Yeah, this is a deep dive into cognitive psychology. What researchers found was that if a product's price is only a little bit above what you expect, say 10%, You just default to looking for cheaper options. You avoid the friction.
So we need to maximize the friction, but without, pushing them off a cliff.
Precisely. In these experiments they ran, customers usually tolerated about a 20% premium. But when they priced items at an 80% premium way above that tolerance, it triggered a shock. And that shock created cognitive dissonance.
Dissonance being that uncomfortable feeling where your brain has to square two conflicting ideas. This is way too expensive, but I usually buy things in this category.
Correct. The brain needs to justify the high price, so it's forced to actually investigate the value. In those experiments, customers who saw that 80% premium, they recalled nearly twice as much product information.
Wow.
They actually cited more arguments in favor of buying the products. They were, in essence, selling themselves on it.
And that specific 80% range is the key, isn't it? Because if the price was just outrageously high, like 190% higher, the effect vanished. People just rejected it as absurd.
Right. It forces the buyer to pause and investigate the features they had previously ignored because they just assumed everything was the same. Think about Burt's Bees.
Oh,
They charged an 80 to 100% premium over the other brands. That price point shocked consumers, but it made them ask, okay, what makes this so special? And then they discovered the natural ingredients, the social responsibility.
reasons to justify the premium. Starbucks did the same thing, right? Pricing coffee over $3 when that was unheard of, it forced people to rethink the entire coffee break experience.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. I'm a sales manager. I'm worried about my pipeline. If I set my price 80% higher than my competitors, won't I just lose 80% of my leads and completely tank my funnel? It's a valid concern. But the goal here is quality over volume. What this really means for your sales team is you're finding the thought-provoking price that filters your leads for you. You're screening out the prospects who will only buy based on cost, leaving you with prospects who are already asking themselves, do I need this enhanced benefit? There's a phenomenal B2B example with KOE, the elevator company. When they introduced this innovative new elevator, the monospace, it cut installation costs by 20% because it didn't need a machine room. But the market wasn't ready to factor that long-term saving into the initial price.
So how did they use the price to force that conversation?
They started submitting two proposals. One was competitive for their older models, and one was significantly higher for the monospace. The higher price wasn't really meant to be accepted right away. It was there to spur a conversation. It forced developers to ask KOE for an explanation, which guaranteed the sales team a chance to explain the total cost of ownership. The price created the conversation.
Quick pause if you're finding this valuable. Hit subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode. And share this with your sales team.
Okay, so that brings us to our third strategy. This one is really for when your competitive advantage is selection or customization or variety. The finding is this. When you're offering multiple options that appeal to different tastes, price them all the same. Equalize the price points.
But here's the catch. That completely contradicts standard cost plus pricing, especially in B2B, where a premium feature might cost us way more to deliver. How do I convince my CFO that pricing our basic option the same as our premium option is a good idea?
You sell it based on maximizing consumption and just eliminating friction. When customers see a bunch of different prices, their natural tendency is to compare them and default to minimizing the price. A uniform price completely suppresses that fixation. It forces them to figure out which option best suits their needs. Quality, design, features, rather than trying to shed features to save a few bucks.
So you're using the price to filter out the cost minimizers, leaving only the buyers who are focused on a personalized fit.
That's the simplest way to put it. I mean, think of how genius this was for Steve Jobs with iTunes. He charged a uniform 99 cents for any track.
Right. The analysts hated it.
They said he should charge more for hits. But the uniform price felt fair. And it got customers to stop obsessing over saving a few pennies and instead think about the huge selection and building their own library.
It shifted their focus from cost minimization to utility maximization.
And the data on this is just incredibly compelling. An experiment compared varied music prices versus a uniform price of $1.29.
Yeah.
The uniform price made people 31% more likely to buy.
Okay.
And it resulted in an astounding 89% increase in total revenue.
89%. There it is. That's the script you give the CFO right there. The marginal profit you lose on one premium offering is totally offset by the massive lift in volume and eliminating that price shopping behavior.
So what this means for your team is, if your edge is the breadth of your selection or customization, use uniform pricing. Swatch did this so successfully, they priced every single watch design at $40. And immediately, the focus shifted from cost to design to fashion to self-expression. The internal question for the customer becomes, which of these is right for me?
Before we wrap up, let's just touch on the dark side of this, because this is where a lot of sales teams trip up. If you want customers to really think about your offering's value, here's a final provocative thought. Do not offer them a discount.
The research is so harsh on this point. It found that customers who were exposed to a simple price promotion, even something small like a discount for signing up online, they became immune to higher quality propositions later on.
Wow, so it trains them.
It absolutely trains them. The promotion actually heightens their price consciousness. It reinforces the exact commodity behavior you're trying to overcome. Discounts teach the customer to focus on price above all else.
So if you want them to focus on value, you have to strategically pull the rug out from under their price fixation. Let's recap the 3 core tactics you can put into practice this week. First, price structure. Charge for the outcome or the value you deliver, like miles, or broken rock, or power by the hour, not the physical unit you sell. Second, willful overpricing. Use a moderate premium, right around that 80% mark, to provoke curiosity and force customers to actually investigate your unique benefits. And third, equalize price points. If you offer a lot of options, charge the same price for all of them to shift the customer's focus from what's cheapest to what's right for me. Pick one of these 3 to test with your team this week. Track your results, especially gross margin and lead quality. Then implement the next one.
This has been Inside Sales Geek, translating academic research into wins for your team. New episode every Tuesday.